So zoom in first. Monster Hunter Wilds has a few settings that are not intuitive, and they are set to default off the rip, and they may feel a little odd, especially if you've played previous Monster Hunter titles. These are the settings I would recommend to change. So first, open up settings, go to options. The very first thing on game settings I would change is HUD. Change everything down from default down to small. By default, everything is a bit larger on the screen. It feels a little claustrophobic. So change all of the HUD down to small. Minimap size and minimap scale, that's your personal preference, whatever you want to do. Minimap rotation and minimap angle, I personally like on fixed and fixed overhead. That means while you're fighting, your minimap in the bottom left isn't spinning uncontrollably. It's just always locked in place. Page 2, this is a lot of personal preference again. Health gauge display, stamina, things like that. I set to fixed. That just means your health bar, stamina bar, things like that will not change their size in and out of combat. I just like it always being fixed. That's where I like it. Page 3, weapon visibility, you can have on or off. Head armor visibility, you can have on or off. I have mine on hide. I like to see my character's face. Obscured hunter visibility is a big one. What that means is when you are behind a monster in a fight and you can't see your character, that it will highlight your character so you can see. I turn mine on. The different types are just the different color outlines. You have white, black, yellow, red. I use type 1, it's just a basic white outline. It's very helpful, turn it on. I believe your mount in this game is called a secret. That's the bird you ride on. This is hide other player's secret. I say turn that on because while you're fighting, if you're in a 4-person group, you have 4 secrets running around you at all times. It can get really distracting, really cluttering. Turning this on makes it that you won't see your other companions' secrets during a fight. Turn it on. Secret auto explorer, I turn it off. If I walk away to get a glass of water or a snack, I don't want my bird off exploring. Going down, that's all on this window. Page 4, same thing. You can turn tutorials on or off, your choice. Then we go over to control settings. Confirm button is X. Dash controls, I put on L3 and R1, so there's 2 options to dash. I'm not sure what the default was. I think it might have just been L3. I put both on. I like having the bumper as well as the joystick. Then we go down to hold confirmation duration, how long you have to hold a button to have a prompt happen. I like it on short, and for reasons I will explain shortly, this pays off huge. Auto sheath, disable auto sheath. I don't like when my weapon auto puts itself away. Simple as that. Everything else here is good. Go to page 2. The first big option we're gonna get to is this one, aim/focus mode controls. This one's huge. Focus mode is a new thing they brought into this game. 80% of the time you're going to be fighting in focus mode, and this by default is you have to hold L2 to have it active. That's ridiculous. Change it to toggle. That way you can just hit L2, you're in focus mode. Make your life 1,000 times easier. Then call secret controls. This is relevant to the hold duration that we just changed to short. Type 3 adds also the ability to call your mount by holding on PlayStation circle. I don't know what the button is on other controllers, but on this one, circle. All that is, or the reason I do that is because when I'm fighting and running away from a monster using my joystick, I don't want to have to take my hand off the joystick to call my bird. So I just hit circle while running, and because it's set to short, it'll instantly call my bird, which can sweep me off my feet mid-fight, which is super, super helpful if you're trying to get away. The next huge one is secret manual controls. Change it to type 2. By default, it's on type 1, which treats your mount like a throttle-based system, meaning you increase your speed, and then if you let go of the speed, you're still stuck at that speed. It's like an airplane almost. It's weird. It's unintuitive. Change it to type 2, which is how every game moves around, which is if you're holding forward on your joystick, you go forward. If you let go, you're not going to go forwards. And if you want to sprint, you hold right bumper R1 and you'll sprint. It's just way more intuitive. Type 2, make your life easier. Everything else is the same here. Everything is the same here. If your controller icons, your buttons are not lining up to what your controller is, say you have a PlayStation controller plugged in and it's showing Xbox, go over here, change your type to what you want to see. Then we are on to camera control. First page is all personal preference of sensitivities. I did increase my sensitivities. I like them to be a little faster, so I increased them a bit. Page 2, the big things we're going to look at here, we're going to come down to camera zoom. By default, it's on 4. A lot of people, myself included, feel that's a bit too zoomed in, especially when you're in town or in a monster fight. So we zoom it out to camera level 10. It makes life a lot easier. Another big one is camera shake, which is by default at 5. pull it down to 1. It just seems simpler. If you like camera shake, leave it where it is. Enjoy it yourself. Focus camera. This is personal preference. Again, for me, I like it on disable. The difference between disable and enabled is when it's enabled and you're locked onto a monster, if the monster pulls out of your line of sight, it's gonna auto move your camera to look at it. Some people like that. I don't. I like having full control of my camera. So for me, I disable it. Let's see. Next big one is going to be on page 3 here of camera. It is called reticle direction. It starts off on default type 1. Huge recommendation on default type 4. Take my word for it, but if you don't, the difference is this. When you activate focus mode, which brings up a reticle, it's how your hunter is going to focus on things. So type 1 by default, for example, if I lock onto this monster and I have my weapon out and I change to focus mode here, you're going to see nothing happens, right? And so say I have a charged hit and I focus mode, nothing happens. Focus mode in this game allows you to change the direction of your swings mid-swing, which is great. But now if I change it to option 4, what that is telling it to do is lock onto the monster when I enter focus mode. So if I do this, great swing, amazing, right? Huge change. The reason why you don't want to do type 1 is because in type 1 here, what you'd have to do is enter focus mode and then also hit lock on to change. It's an extra button step if you're not already in focus mode. It's not great. While you're in focus mode though, in anything, you always just hit L1 to refocus on the monster. The difference between 3 and 4 is simply this, is non-locked on monster behavior. So for example, in type 4, when I'm not locked onto a monster, when I enter focus mode, it's going to line me up where my camera's facing. So my hunter is facing towards my bird. I look at the ledge, I enter focus mode, it's going to pull me towards the ledge, right? Now type 3 is going to be this. It's going to direction my camera wherever my hunter is physically facing. So my hunter is facing my bird, my camera is at the ledge, it's going to pull me towards my bird when I enter focus mode. That's personal preference. I base off my decisions based on where my camera is looking, not on the visual orientation of my hunter. So that's why I choose option 4. Then aim assist, I'd say turn on. Doesn't hurt, especially in a game like this. Everything is good there. Camera vertical, I have it on between horizon and target. I think that's the one I like. Again, personal preference, whatever you want. Page 4, really the only thing people talk about is monster sighting camera, on or off. It just shows a cinematic camera mode when first sighting a monster. For now, I like it on. I like the visual appeal to it. Maybe in the future I'll turn it off. Then we're on display, which again is going to be all personal preference and what your computer can run. But with that said, these are mine. And then page 3 is going to be graphics. Again, this is what your computer can run and personal preference. The things that me and friends found out that we enjoy though are upscaling, NVIDIA DLSS, and upscaling mode, NVIDIA DLAA tends to look the best so far. In terms of graphic settings, I tested out low and high. I didn't see much performance difference and I didn't see much visual difference. Maybe that will change when the full game comes out. The biggest thing to note is just on page 2 here, most people turn motion blur off. I don't like it on. Maybe some people like it on for the cinematic appeal. I just turn it off. For game quality wise, I like it off. I don't want things to be blurry when I'm trying to fight a monster. Audio is all personal preference. The only big one is, I would say, palico language. If you are a Monster Hunter fan like myself from before titles, it was very weird to hear your palico speak in a human language, as they are cats and have always just meowed. So I changed it back to feline language, which means they go meow, 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 like things like that, rather than talking to me in a human voice. It was just odd. So that's a big one I changed back. These are my settings for that page. And then last but not least, accessibility. This is where you find your colorblind mode, visuals, auditory. You can turn off motion sickness reduction. If you get really motion sick, they have settings recommended for that. A big thing that is to be noted is there is an arachnophobia mode. It is only accessible from options at the main title screen here, which I'll show you super quick. So if that is something that you want, the arachnophobia mode can only be turned on before loading into your game. So you go to this main screen here, you hit options, and then on accessibility here, You will see right here, they have an arachnophobia assistance, which you can turn on. So it changes small monsters and spider-like creatures to not spider-like creatures. And that's it. That's the entirety of every setting that I would change in the game to make it feel intuitive and to make it feel more like previous Monster Hunters and like a good gaming experience. If you want to come hunt with me, I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/WhoBuiltTheArk. Come check us out. We will be streaming a ton of Monster Hunter. When it launches, come hunt, come hang out. I'll see you there. Till next time, stay safe, stay awesome.